walking through life without social anxiety or fear is the ultimate freedom that you can possibly achieve as a man. And you know what? Sadly, I would say like over 95% of guys out there will end up dying having never achieved this type of freedom where they can walk through life without social anxiety and without fear. There was an exercise I remember, actually they said this in this movie Office Space. If you remember that movie from 1997, Office Space, I think it was the guy who played the Indian guy, Naheed Nanajed, right? He got asked a question by his coworker. Said, "Oh, what would you do with your life if you had $1 million?" Right? If you didn't have to worry about money, basically, what would you do with your life? And whatever your answer was, that is what you should be doing with your life, right? So if money was no object, if you had millions of dollars in the bank, you didn't have to worry about money. What would you be doing with your life? It's kind of the same thing here. It's like if you could walk through life without anxiety and without fear of being judged by others, how would you act and how would you be? Right? And I can tell you right now that you would act like yourself and you would be yourself. And I'm not talking about your fake self, but your real self, right? And moreover, you would feel 1,000 times better about yourself and your life, and you would feel like a kid all over again. Remember what it felt like to be a kid when you didn't care what anybody thought of you? You would do all sorts of crazy shit. Unfortunately, a bad thing happened, and that bad thing, which is somewhat good and bad, there are pros and cons to it, but the bad thing that happened to you back when you were a kid was you were slowly socialized, right? You were socialized by your parents, teachers, people in society, where you kind of stepped out of line. You would step out of line, as we often did as kids, and then you would have a parent, teacher, or someone in society be like, "Hey, don't do that. Don't touch that." Right? How many times you heard, "Don't touch that"? But you were slowly socialized to not do certain things and to kind of like suppress yourself. The problem is, throughout life, you interact, or you encounter, I should say, let's close this, getting a little cold. You encounter too many people like that who kind of take it beyond trying to help you out, because you're no longer a kid. Now you're turning into a young adult, right? Maybe you're late teens, early 20s, even into your 30s, right? 40s, 50s. You encounter people who are not really trying to help you by correcting you, but they're really trying to help themselves and feed into their own, high horse mentality where they're like, "Oh, don't do that, mister. Don't say those things," right? You preach like red pill content, for example. Like, they're like, "Hey, it's misogynistic, mister. That's not what you say. You live in the current year," as Justin Trudeau says. You get a lot of people like that putting you in your head to the point where you can't say what you want to say anymore. You can't be who you want to be. You can't just live as a free man, right? Which is your God-given right, right? Especially here in the States. We have something called a Constitution. We have something called a Bill of Rights, which gives you the freedom to be who you are, right? It gives you that liberty to do what you want to do and pursue the things you want to pursue. Nobody can stop you from that. Unfortunately, there's no bill that's saying people can't shame you, right? And that's unfortunately a part of our wiring, part of our DNA as men, is we're wired to react to stuff like that. That's something you're going to have to unplug and rewire, is that when people shame you, that it just, it doesn't have any effect on you, because you unplug that part of you that responds to that. You're just like, "Oh, that's your opinion. Okay. That's not my opinion. You could have your opinion. That's your right, but that's not mine. And yeah, I'm not taking your advice. I'm following my gut," as I always teach you guys. Always follow your gut instincts. Gut instincts will It won't always be right, but it'll be right most of the time, especially in big decisions, right? That's when you'll need it the most, is in big decisions. Imagine if you could walk through life without social anxiety or fear. Like, imagine the power you would have, the power you would feel to just, you would feel invincible, like you can do anything out there. Like you can walk up to the most beautiful girl and say whatever you want and try to pick her up, right? You could go out there and like build a successful business. You could go out there and just go beyond what you ever thought you were capable of. You can go out there and surpass your full potential, right? Oh snap, wait, you can do those things, right? It's not just a dream. It's not just a fantasy in your imagination. It's something that you can actually do. The only thing that's inhibiting you from doing those things, that's keeping you from doing that, is the fact that you have almost become an agent of all of these, pardon my French, of all of these cunts in the world who have put you in your head. You have become an agent of theirs who is like almost standing in front of you, standing in your own way, talking shit to you, going, hey, don't do this, mister. Don't even try it, mister. That's not right, mister. Don't. Just stop it, mister. Get in line with everybody else and follow the beaten path that everybody else is on. Do everything that everyone else is doing and be like everyone else. You better assimilate, mister. Don't try to do your own thing. Don't try to be an individual. You better join the collective, mister. Right? You have like all of these like cunts that you've encountered in the world have like created this like agent, right? This agent that's constantly like in your face. That really is what's keeping you from walking throughout life without social anxiety or fear. But now that you know this, now that I've made you socially aware of it, it's time to kill that agent. Okay, I'm not talking about getting rid of him. I'm talking about killing that agent, right? Making him disappear from your life forever so that you can almost return to that same freedom and abundance that you had as a child before you got socialized, right? Because now that you have been socialized, you know what to do and what not to do. You do know right from wrong, right? You don't need that lesson again. You don't need the continuous socialization, right? You don't need that. You can cut that off now. You're a grown man. You know what's right for you and you know what's wrong for you, right? You know what to do. You don't need that socialization anymore. You can fire that person. You could get rid of them, I mean. You do have the ability to walk through life without fear if you want to, okay? If you want to, and just return to that place that you were at once when you were a child, that happy place, right? Because most of us as children, we're pretty happy. Remember? We always did what we wanted to do, hung out with the people we wanted to, said whatever we wanted to, right? And maybe we did take it a bit too far at times. Maybe we did a few dumb things, part of learning, right? But now that we're grown up, we can make decisions for ourselves. That's part of the beauty of being an adult grown up. You can make decisions for yourself and you don't need the world telling you what to do, especially some politician or some bureaucrat or anything like that. Because like recently we had the COVID-19, a lot of guys were asking me like, oh, what do you feel about this? And I just said, hey, you know, I'm going to follow the rules from the doctor. It's going to do the social distancing. But you know what? I'm not going to let a politician or a bureaucrat who's trying to please his, you know, his only agenda is to please his constituency. I'm not going to let that guy green light when I can live my life. I'm not going to let that guy green light, you know, when I can like breathe. No, I don't think so. I don't live for these people. I live for myself. I live for God. I live for my animals. I live for my family. I live for my movie. I'm not like out there hurting anybody or, you know, breaking any of the rules. But I'm not down with that. So again, like I said, going back to living without social anxiety or fear, I mean, it's the ultimate freedom. And it's a freedom that you have not experienced. I guarantee you have not experienced that freedom, that level of freedom since you were a child, before you turned approximately 8 years old, because after 8 years old, that's when you start to become a lot more socially aware of what you're doing and what you shouldn't do. But before then, it was like, sky's the limit. I'm going to touch whatever I want to touch, and I'm going to take whatever I want to take, and I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And through the years, that amount of freedom and like almost clarity and abundance has slowly evaporated throughout the years. And now that I'm making you aware of it, you can actually go back and get that. Okay, obviously you're just more responsible because you're a grown adult now. You live more responsibly, right? So I'm not saying to go back and live foolishly and, whatever you're doing back then, like punching other kids in the face. Obviously you don't do shit like that, but just let go of your social anxiety and all the fear that you've acquired through decades or years, depending on how old you are, years or decades of your life being constantly socialized by people that really had, by the time you're adult, really have no right to tell you, how to live or what to do. It's all about just getting back to that place of abundance that you had as a child, because really when you were a child, you didn't need much, right? You didn't need much. You were happy. You're a happy kid. You're just happy to go out and play with your friends, or you're happy to just go out and watch a television show. I mean, it didn't take much to please you. So it's about just getting back to that freedom that you once had, and it's more like mentally and socially than anything else, because as a kid, socially, you really didn't care. I mean, it wasn't until, like I said, beyond the age of 8 that you started to notice that some people in school might have been more popular than others. Well, how come this person has more friends than I do? And you start to see those things, and then you kind of start to shape yourself in a way where you can, mimic that. And I mean, there's a lot of good to that, right? Because you're really socializing yourself at that point. And it's not bad as long as you are not taking away from who you are. Okay? And you're not taking away from who you want to be. Feel me? Right? So what it all boils down to is living for you and living for what you want to do in life, and not worrying about the external world. Basically just, as I keep telling you guys, living in your own reality versus everyone else's. Okay? And with that said, I'm going to wrap up here. Until next time, this is Matt Cross from Alpha Male Secrets, signing out from the DeLorean. Don't forget to smash that like button below. Also hit that notification bell right next to it so that you're notified whenever I release a brand new coaching video here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, guys. Very, very important. Okay? Make sure you're subscribed to my channel as well, and share all of my content with other like-minded friends of yours so we could really grow the channel, build the channel, and really make it something special, even more special than